a great plane tree that lasted for 623 years. The Ottoman Empire was ruled by a total of 36 sultans. In this video, we will examine the lives of these 36 monarchs, their conquests, the tragedies they endured, and the events that shaped the fate of an empire. If you're ready, we begin our journey from the small town of Söğüt to the heights of a global empire. Osman Gazi. At the top of the list is the architect of the empire. During his 25-year reign, he transformed a small principality into a state. The most critical turning point was the Battle of Baphius, Koyulhisar, the first major test against Byzantium, which officially established the Ottoman statehood. Orhan Gazi. He fulfilled his father's will by capturing Bursa and making it the capital. He established the first regular army, and the first Ottoman silver coins were minted during his reign. In 1354, the Ottoman flag crossed into Europe for the first time with the capture of the Shimpi castle. Murad I, the conqueror of the Balkans. He moved the capital to Edirne and made the Turkish presence in the Balkans permanent. He established the famous Janissary Corps. However, he was martyred on the battlefield after the great victory of Kosovo. Bayezid I. He was famed for his speed, hence the name the Thunderbolt. Bayezid I was the first Ottoman Sultan to besiege Constantinople. At Nicopolis, he crushed a massive Crusader army. Yet in 1402, the Battle of Ankara against Timur proved catastrophic for the Ottomans. His death in captivity plunged the state into the interregnum, Fetre Devri, an 11-year period of darkness and civil strife. The interregnum, 1402 to 1413. After Bayezid's defeat, the Ottoman state nearly collapsed. Bayezid's sons fought each other for the throne. For 11 years, the empire existed without unity, authority, or direction. Many believed the Ottomans were finished. They were wrong. Mehmed I, 1413 to 1421, known as the second founder of the Ottoman state. Mehmed I reunited the fractured lands and restored central authority. Through diplomacy, patience and force, he ended the civil war and rebuilt the empire from the ashes. Without Mehmed I, there would have been no Ottoman future. Murad II, 1421 to 1451. A warrior sultan in an age of constant war. He fought both internal rebellions and European coalitions. Victories at Varna and the Second Battle of Kosovo crushed Crusader hopes permanently. At one point he abdicated the throne, but returned when the state needed him most. He prepared the ground for a conquest that would change world history. Mehmed II, the Conqueror, 1451 to 1481. In 1453, the world changed forever. At just 21 years old, Mehmed II conquered Constantinople. The city became Istanbul, the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. This was not merely a military victory, it marked the end of the Middle Ages. Mehmed II transformed the Ottomans into a true world empire, expanding into the Balkans, Anatolia, and the Black Sea. He was not only a conqueror, but a lawmaker, scholar, and visionary ruler. Bayezid II, 1481 to 1512. A calm and religious ruler following a giant shadow. His reign focused on stability rather than conquest. He welcomed Sephardic Jews expelled from Spain, strengthening the empire economically and culturally. However, internal conflicts, especially with his son Selim, would define his final years. Selim I, the grim, 1512 to 1520, short reign, immense impact. In just 8 years, Selim I expanded the empire dramatically. He defeated the Safavids and conquered the Mamluk Sultanate, bringing Mecca, Medina, and Cairo under Ottoman control. The Ottoman Sultan now held the title of Caliph. The empire was no longer just powerful, it was sacred. Suleiman I, the Magnificent, 1520 to 1566. The peak of Ottoman power. Under Suleiman, the empire reached its greatest territorial extent. Belgrade, Rhodes, much of Hungary. One victory after another. He was both lawgiver, kanuni, and conqueror, reforming laws that would endure for centuries. And behind the throne stood Hurrem Sultan, reshaping palace politics forever. This was the empire's golden age. Selim II, the Sot, 1566 to 1574. The first Ottoman Sultan who never led an army into battle. Real power increasingly passed to the Grand Viziers. Despite this, the empire still expanded. Cyprus was conquered. However, the defeat at Lepanto signaled the first major naval warning. The empire was still strong, but something had changed. Murad III, 1574 to 1595. An era of luxury, corruption, and palace intrigue. The harem gained unprecedented influence over state affairs. Although wars continued, the cost was heavy. Inflation rose, discipline weakened, and the seeds of decline were quietly planted. Mehmed III, 1595 to 1603. He ascended the throne by executing 19 of his brothers, the bloodiest succession in Ottoman history. Military failures and internal unrest defined his reign. The empire was losing control of its destiny. Ahmed I, 1603 to 1617. A turning point. He ended the tradition of fratricide by sparing his brother Mustafa. He commissioned the Blue Mosque, a symbol of faith amid uncertainty. The empire searched for stability. Mustafa I, 1617 to 1618, 1622 to 1623. Mentally unstable and unfit to rule. He was deposed twice. For the first time, the weakness of the Sultan himself became a state crisis. Osman II, the Young, 1618 to 1622. Ambitious and reform-minded, he sought to modernize the army and curb the Janissaries' power. They responded by revolting. Osman II was deposed and murdered, the first Ottoman Sultan killed by his own soldiers. A line had been crossed. Murad IV, 1623 to 1640. A ruler of iron will. He restored order through fear and absolute authority. Alcohol and tobacco were banned. Disobedience was punished with death. His reconquest of Baghdad restored Ottoman prestige. Order returned, but at a terrible cost. Ibrahim Namai, the Mad, 1640 to 1648. Traumatized, unstable, and isolated. The state was effectively ruled by the harem and courtiers. His erratic behavior led to chaos. Eventually, he was deposed and executed. The empire was adrift. Mehmed IV, 1648 to 1687, known as the Hunter. Real power lay with the Kuprulu Grand Viziers, who restored discipline and military effectiveness. Territories were regained. But in 1683, the second siege of Vienna failed. It was a turning point from which the empire would never fully recover. Suleiman II, 1687 to 1691. An elderly and reluctant ruler during desperate times. The empire fought for survival on multiple fronts. Losses mounted. Ahmed II, 1691 to 1695. Brief reign, continuous war. The Ottomans were no longer advancing, they were defending. Mustafa II, 1695 to 1703. The last sultan to personally lead an army into battle. Defeat forced the signing of the Treaty of Karlowitz, 1699, the first major territorial loss officially recognized by the empire. The age of expansion was over. Ahmed III, 1703 to 1730. The Tulip Era, a time of art, diplomacy, and Western influence. But extravagance bred resentment. The Patrona Halil rebellion ended the dream. Mahmud I, 1730 to 1754. Stability returned briefly. Military reforms were attempted, but resistance remained strong. Osman III, 1754 to 1757, reclusive and fearful. His short reign left little impact. Mustafa III, 1757 to 1774, aware of decline and desperate for reform, but Russia was rising. Abdul Hamid I, 1774 to 1789. The empire suffered humiliation. The Treaty of Küçük granted Russia influence over Ottoman Muslims, a psychological defeat as much as a political one. Selim III, 1789 to 1807, a visionary ahead of his time. He introduced the Nizam-i-Sedid, New Order army. Traditional forces revolted. Selim III was deposed and murdered. Reform had failed, for now. Mahmud II, 1808 to 1839, a revolutionary ruler. He destroyed the Janissary Corps in the auspicious incident. Modern ministries, army and bureaucracy were created. The old empire died so a new one could be born. Abdul Makid I, 1839 to 1861. The Tanzimat era, legal equality, modernization, and Western-style reforms reshaped the empire. But debt and foreign dependence grew. Abdulaziz, 1861 to 1876. Modern navy, modern state, massive debt, discontent spread. He was deposed and died under mysterious circumstances. Murad V, 1876, reigned only 93 days, declared mentally unfit. Abdul Hamid II, 1876 to 1909, the last powerful Ottoman Sultan, an autocrat, strategist, and survivor. He ruled through intelligence networks and diplomacy, but pressure mounted. He was deposed. Mehmed V, 1909 to 1918, a symbolic ruler during catastrophe. The empire entered World War I and lost. Mehmed VI, 1918 to 1922, the final sultan, occupied, defeated, dissolved. In 1922, the Ottoman Sultanate was abolished. From a small frontier beylik in Söğüt to a 623-year world empire, the Ottomans rose, ruled, and fell, but their legacy still shapes the world today.